record. All right, so Lori, let's take a look at the different pieces of a septic tank and kind of how the system works. So if you can see from this picture, I'll try to move my mouse around a little bit. Here's the house, just like any normal house that has the plumbing running through it.
Right.
And, you know, out of the house comes the main drain line. So when you flush the toilet or run the shower or anything like that, all that, you know, sewage, which would normally go, say, to a sewer line, that goes ahead and comes into what's called the septic tank. So a lot of the things that are in the septic tank is water, right? It's water with kind of the dissolved solids, not to get graphic, but it's truly what it is, right? And what happens is the solids go ahead and float down here to the bottom. And so the kind of the sediment, if you would, kind of sinks down into here. Then what happens is the water, as it fills up, it kind of rises here and it goes out the other side of this tank, which is called the, you know, the kind of the leach field or the drain field. And what's happening is it's really just water that's coming into this secondary pipe. And then it gets kind of, you know, filtrated into the soil, and it just resorbs that water into the earth, goes back through the natural purification process into our aquifers and goes on its merry way. So that's, you know, that's how a normal drain field would work. And now a couple things to point out. Do you see these little kind of circular openings here and a circular opening here? So those are like standpipes and they're cleanouts. And so in most of the modern day septic systems, they put these cleanouts there so they don't, excuse me, have to dig out the tank. They can simply open the tops of these cleanouts and stick their suction materials, say, down into this area, and then suck this sludge out. And that's kind of how you clean out your septic tank. And you're supposed to do that every 3 to 5 years. What happens is if you don't clean out your septic tank, and I'm not saying, you know, 6 years or 7 years, I'm talking 15 years, you know, or more, what typically can happen is this sludge level can build up till it reaches this pipe clean out right here. And when it reaches that, when the sludge reaches this clean out and that sludge starts to flow into your drain field, well, now you have a problem, right?
Yes.
And so what happens there, sorry, I'm just moving this over here. So what happens is then your drain lines all get filled and your drain field is not what they call perking properly. Sorry, I forgot where my camera was, perking properly. And it kind of gets all backed up with sludge, and then the system really doesn't work, right?
Okay.
So when you do an inspection, believe it or not, what they're going to do is they're going to, excuse me, come along here and they're going to actually get into the tank and clean out the sludge and see how deep it is. They're literally going to put a rod down there that measures the depth of the sludge. And they know, let's just say this is a 5-foot tank, right? So they know that if there's less than 5 feet of sludge, then they know it hasn't reached the drain line and they're good to go. And then they'll literally pump this out, get a little camera, look down in there, make sure that everything looks good with the tank. There's no tree roots growing in it and stuff like that.
So they do that during the inspection?
The septic inspection, yeah. Which, believe it or not, a septic inspection does require the tank to be pumped. So kind of a benefit, if you would, to the seller is that they will get their tank pumped, right? Now, here's where the permissions come in, is the fact that sometimes these things don't have these easy access, you know, openings, right? The way that the access points. And sometimes you have to wind up excavating some of the soil a foot or 18 inches down in order to reach this cap on top of the tank. And then they take this cap off and do the exact same thing that we just spoke about.
Okay.
So And so the reason why we want to get permissions from the seller is that, there's literally someone going to come in there like Bank Septic or one of the other companies, and they're going to have to excavate the soil or the lawn or whatever the septic tank is over to get to that clean out. So, we usually, if you call banks or any of the other companies, they'll send you a form ahead of time that the co-op agent would have the seller sign, basically giving banks the permission to go ahead and dig up and inspect the septic system.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is something that the buyer incurs the cost of having this inspection done.
They do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like doing a sewer line inspection or a radon test or a mold test or really any other of those types of inspections. And they're checking on the septic tank, right?
Okay.
And I think 180, $200, something in that range is typically what they run.
Okay, that's not too bad. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. So let me go ahead.
So this is a company I would call separately, or they would. I could give them some contacts, right?
Yeah. Like, for example, I know I've used them, Lorelei's used them, Bank Septic is, especially if it's incoming. They service that area and they're really reputable and do a good job.
Okay.